Let me tell you a secret, okay? When I am interviewed by somebody and they ask me the unthinkable question, how old are you, Pat? I usually say somewhere between the age of Bruno Mars and the planet Mars. And then you can just simply choose. Mars, however, is very much in the news outside of any interviews that I might be doing. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Sky, this is our Mars time?
It is, Pat. Good to be with you and the viewers out there. It's amazing what just happened in the last week or so. After a 7-month journey, this amazing spacecraft, the Mars 2020 Perseverance project, the Perseverance rover, that 7 minutes of terror that you were describing before we were on air about, wow, this is the nail-biting event, because all of your energies are put into that 7.5 minutes to make sure you go from 24,000 miles to less than 17 miles an hour.
That's when they enter the atmosphere of Mars,
right,
and then release the rover.
Absolutely. That whole 7.5 minutes of terror, as they described it, we all know because it's history. The Perseverance rover is successfully on the red planet, and exploration like we've never seen before is just about to take place. And again, we salute not only the people of NASA, but the great engineers and men and women. A lot more women now involved, which is a great thing too, because a lot of times they thought it was just a man's world. We congratulate them because, Pat, we ain't seen nothing yet, as they say in the space world. And I'm here to describe some of the things that I think are so important, and maybe some things that people don't know about this mission.
Mars landing was successful. I went through 7 minutes of terror, and nobody asked me to help them at all. I've got to tell you, this entire concept of how many years now?
We're looking at a whole journey here, Pat, with the whole project about since 2014. Just to pull all this together is so amazing. But think about this, a small object, the rover, small as maybe a small subcompact car, with a little tiny helicopter, greatest technology yet, tucked underneath, called Ingenuity. And think about this, when they release it, its batteries are being charged. Maybe in April we'll see the first flight of the Ingenuity helicopter. It'll be a Wright brothers moment, because people maybe not know this too. When the Wright brothers first flew, their first flight was maybe 12 seconds, and they went 120 feet. So we're hoping that this Wright brothers moment with the helicopter happens.
If you go to Google or any of the sources of information that you have, and you look up Mars landing or you look up Perseverance or whatever, you will actually see the landing, you will see the parachute deploy.
Absolutely.
You'll see all of those things, and you'll even see a message on the inside of the parachute.
That's incredible, and I wanted to save that for, as you brought it up here. Many people don't realize the engineers on these missions, they have some little symbology and little secrets that they encode in some of these missions. But on this one, Pat, rightfully so, engineering students around the world looked at the parachute and said, there's got to be a message in there, and they were right. And what it states in binary code goes around the parachute, basically a quote that Teddy Roosevelt once said about inspiration, "Dare mighty things," is written in there in binary language. And also around the outer periphery of the parachute are the landing coordinates, GPS coordinates of the JPL headquarters. It's their motto, "Dare mighty things." That's amazing. And what's more amazing is that young engineering students who looked at this said, I think that's where the little hidden thing, the hidden message is in there, and they were right.
I was on the edge of my seat. But why should everybody care? There are so many things going on in our lives right now, some of them not so positive. Why should we care about something going on scientifically millions of miles from Earth?
It's a mixed bag, and the answer I'll give you, Pat, not just because we love space, but exploration has to be it is in the genes of the humankind. Again, with all the suffering going on with COVID and all the other things, war, and why can't we all get along stuff, these engineers, I think they're going to bring to the table not only science, instrumentation, and technology that's of the highest order, but we're also going to be able to transfer some of that technology to things here on the Earth. And we've also learned some of the handshake technologies, like you look at the rover. There's also been great advances with robotic surgery type equipment. Think of it that way. But again, people like Elon Musk, myself, you, and a lot of other space fans, we know that exploration has always been in the genes of the humankind, and that we really do need to move on to the planets, to the moon and to the planet Mars, though a very risky flight, because if I asked you and looked at the camera and asked the audience out there, would you go on a 7-month journey in a tiny little spam can, you and I and say another 12 people, We have to be more than the right stuff to do that. I don't think I could do it, I'm being honest with you.
Because we're talking about a one-way journey.
That's possible, very much so, because if we're there, Elon Musk says he would do it and he would sacrifice his life, and I know that for sure, and a lot of others have said that. But the simplest answer I can give you today, and it's positive, is that exploration has always been in humankind, in the DNA. We know that on this planet, whether you're a believer in climate change or not, or otherworldly problems, the great technology that's coming out of JPL, the robotics, the artificial intelligence, a lot of that will definitely have, and has already had, some benefits to us here on the Earth.
So the cameras are working splendidly. The microphone, there's a microphone
Yes.
that is working.
It's also working.
And you can hear the sound of Mars.
Yes.
What other experiments besides the helicopter?
There's a large radar piece of equipment. It's one of the main instruments on there. It goes down and penetrates the surface of the ground of Mars by about 33 feet. What it's searching for, and by the way, I should mention before we go on with that particular piece of instrumentation, it's landed in a crater about 30 miles in diameter called Jezero. And if you go back to Bosnia-Herzegovina, in their particular area of the globe, there is a town called Jezero, which means lake. So what this probably was billions of years ago, this was it is a dried lake. We've landed almost spot on. It's like, imagine this scenario, taking a rifle and shooting a bullet from New York and hitting a target in Los Angeles.
They were only about a mile off the absolute zero target.
Totally amazing. So the point is, in that Jezero crater, this particular, one of the many instruments on the rover itself, has radar that can penetrate 33 feet into the Earth or into the Mars surface.
Yes.
And then what they're looking for is fossilized remains, because it's the edge of a delta. And think of the Mississippi Delta with all of its finger type attributes coming out. In that area, as dried up, it's probably the more likely spot, and you're right, they landed spot on pretty much where they needed to go. There's the best probability of finding some sort of fossilized remains, and that remains the big question. Is there life on Mars? Where is it? And this particular unit will also have the capability of ejecting or leaving on the surface samples that a future return mission can bring back to the Earth.
We're going to bring back Mars. We're going to send somebody there. It's all happening now. And we should also very briefly and quickly congratulate ASU for its part.
Absolutely, Pat. A lot of people don't realize ASU is so much part and parcel. They're in the back. They're in the background. But that background is so important on many of the flight systems that are on board Perseverance. So, Pat, in the next few months, we're going to be experiencing some amazing technology, the best views, sounds. The journey has just begun, and it's always a privilege and honor to talk about these events here with you.
Even Orson Welles would have been thrilled.
Absolutely.
Dr. Sky talking about Mars on this program, and I find it